Okay, so this is, we're here today. This is the JoAnn Soriano / JoAnn England video memoir number 3. It's Sunday, October the 19th, 2014. We're here in front of the house where my mom, JoAnn Soriano, grew up. It's 246 North 32nd Street, Kansas City, Kansas. And I want my mom to tell us a little bit about the house that she grew up in here.
Yes, well, we moved here when I was in the 6th grade, and I went to Francis Willard School up the hill. And in this house, there is there's a living room and a side room that my mother used for a bedroom, and then there was a bathroom, and it was, there were toilets, outside toilets when we first moved here.
You didn't have running water indoors when you moved in?
No, the running water was there, but a toilet that flushed wasn't there.
So you had you had to go outside to go to the bathroom?
In the back, yeah. There was an alley and there was a...
Outhouse?
There was an outhouse, yes.
All right, so that's... And what year was that, approximately?
Well, it was the year...
How old were you?
I was 12.
So you were born in 32. That would have been 44?
Yeah.
So you moved in here in 1944?
Right. And Fred was just born, and an ambulance brought Grandma and Fred over to the house. He was just a newborn baby.
Okay, so Fred was born and brought home to here.
Right, from Kansas City, Missouri. In
1944? Wow,
yeah.
Okay. Gives us some perspective, a little context. So how many, sort of mom, dad, how many people lived here in the house?
Well, there were 7 of us.
7 people lived in this house?
Yes.
So mom and dad.
Mom and Dad and JoAnn, Betty Lou, and Richard, Bob, and Fred.
Okay.
My father used to say Rich Bob Fred before he knew which kid he was talking to.
Now, if I remember right, this house was heated by coal. And did you have natural gas or electricity, or what other?
We had natural gas for the stove in the kitchen.
City water.
City water. Yeah, it was running water, and there was a bathroom in between the 2 bedrooms downstairs, but there was no toilet in it. You could take a bath, and you could wash your hands, but there was no toilet. I guess the sewer, I don't know what made the difference. But everybody had an outhouse on the alley.
You had an outhouse on the alley back behind here.
Right.
And you said you went to, where'd you go to elementary school?
Francis Willard.
Francis Willard Elementary. Do you remember where that's located?
It's on Ohio.
On Ohio. Okay, so it's north of here.
Right.
And it's on Ohio Street, which is just, I think, a couple blocks over.
Right.
And where did you go to high school?
And I went to Wyandotte High School, which is still in existence on 18th in Minnesota.
Maybe we should go by there.
Yeah.
Go by there. Maybe we'll go by the Wyandotte High School where Mom went to high school.
And it's still really a beautiful brick high school that was built in the WPA years.
Oh, wow. So this house has been, looks like it's been added on to. We sold this house, contract for deed, to the April and Perry Comstock family. Looks like they've added on to it. Looks like they put that front deck on the front, and they put a second, they put some doors coming from the upstairs. It always had the upstairs, if I remember right. It had
it had 2 rooms up there.
2 rooms upstairs. So they've done a little work to it. But this is the actual structure. And before I close out this video, maybe I'll pan up and down the street a little bit. But it's hard to see from this perspective, but there's an alley that runs behind these houses. And that's where they had the outhouses back when Mom first, lived here.
And there was an empty lot next to the house. There were no houses there at all, from here to the corner.
So when you lived here, those houses were not there?
That was an empty lot with a swing in the tree.
Oh, so how about this house next door, 244? Was that there when you grew up?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the Pressler house, and Alex Soriano bought it, remember?
All right, so the 244 North 32nd next door here, was called the Pressler House. I'll pan over there real quick. And Alex, Mom's oldest son, bought that house and lived in it for a while. And he worked over here, I think, and actually he was working at Folgers Coffee at that time, Kansas City, Missouri, just east of here. So this is for everyone that has never seen Mom's house, where she grew up, went to grade school, went to high school. This is it, 246 North 32nd, and the people were nice enough to live here to let us kind of show it. I think what I'll do to close up the video is just I'll take the camcorder and kind of show you around the neighborhood a little bit. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and take kind of a video tour of the neighborhood just so you can see. There's the house that Alex used to live in, 244 North 32nd. We go up the hill here, that's going south, and over the top of the hill is City Park on the left side. And then down the hill, these two houses next door here, they apparently were not here when Mom lived here. So it's 248. But anyway, you can kind of see it's a hilly area. It goes, let that car go by, but the road here, 32nd, goes down to stop sign at Ohio, and it goes up again. Very hilly area, and we'll go by Mom's high school too next. And what were you going to say, Mom?
Well, I was just going to say when we were kids here, we used to go up Big Ohio. That's Ohio, and then there's a Big Ohio, and we went to get milk. Our dad made a wagon for us, and the milk bottles fit into this cart.
Oh, so
you could, but on the way back you could ride on it. It was it had steering and brakes and everything.
So when you say we, who would go up and get milk with the wagon?
Well, I would go, and probably Richard.
Really?
Maybe Betty, but we loved going up there because we could ride all the way down.
And where were you going to? A grocery store?
No, we went up to a dairy up on, I don't know what that street is.
But a standalone dairy. So all they sold was dairy products?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like no groceries.
Oh no, it was a farm.
Back in the old days, huh?
We went and got bottles of milk, and Grandpa made it so that it would fit the bottles perfectly. They wouldn't fall out.
Were there cows there at the dairy?
Yeah, well, of course.
I mean, so this was I'm not going to say rural, but this was kind of what would you call this area back then?
Well, it was really close to rural. And my friend's father actually had a garden down in City Park. I don't know how he managed that.
So
and the streetcar, that was the end of the streetcar line in City Park, and you could get for a nickel, you could get on the streetcar and go all the way to Swope Park.
Get out of here.
Yeah, we did it all the time.
So we had mass transit in Kansas City at one time. I did not know that. And so just right over the hill, you could get on a streetcar. You would take Swope Park, which is a good 15 miles to the east of here, in Kansas City, Missouri, maybe further.
And in the meantime, you could get off of Minnesota, went on Minnesota Avenue, so you could get off.
Now, did you consider this suburban or urban? What would you consider this when you were a kid? Was this a city, or was this suburbia?
I always thought it was part of Kansas City, Kansas.
Kansas City, Kansas. Your dad worked at Armor Meatpacking when he lived here?
And he rode the streetcar to go to work.
So Dad rode the street, Mom's dad, which was Homer Douglas, rode the streetcar to work at Armor Meatpacking Plant where he ran the bacon line. And
then after that he worked for Holland Engraving. Those were the only two jobs he had here.
Holland Engraving. So, do you remember what? So he was a supervisor we talked about last night at Armor Meatpacking. What was his job, his role at Holland Engraving? Your dad?
Well, he managed the whole building. It was it was a company and a he just handled all the maintenance. He did some of the engraving equipment. He built engraving equipment.
So he was a manager at Holland Engraving. So that's Grandpa Homer. Mom's dad, my grandfather.
Born in 1900, he was.
That's easy to remember. Grandpa Homer was born in 1900.
And so was Grandma, born in 1900.
And so was Grandma Ruth Douglas, married name Ruth Douglas, maiden name Ruth Mullins. That's so mom and dad were Ruth Mullins, maiden name Ruth Douglas, and Homer Douglas was her dad. So I remember him well. He was a really interesting guy. He something of an inventor, something of a mechanic, something of a really worldly guy that could fix about anything I've ever seen. And
yeah, he was in the First World War as a mechanic on airplanes in England.
He was an airplane mechanic, and then didn't he serve some time in Guam,
in the
Philippines as a motorcycle policeman, MP
in Manila.
In Manila. So that's Grandpa Homer. So a little history on Mom's dad that he served as a motorcycle MP policeman in the Philippines. Just a really interesting background for what he did here. So I think with that we're going to wrap up this video number 3. I think we're going to move down to Wyandotte High School, take a look at where Mom went to high school and talk about some memories there. Okay?
This was brilliant.